Have you ever chased something so big, so impossible that the whole world laughed at you? Picture this, a poor boy in a dusty village. No shoes, no future. But one day, a strange machine roars past. It's loud. It's shiny. It's a car. And that boy? He runs after it like his life depends on it. Not because he wants to ride it. No, he wants to build it. That boy was Soichiro Honda. Hello, my amazing friends. Welcome to Learn English with Stories. 365. The place where dreams and English grow together. If you're learning English, if you love powerful stories, if you want to improve your English listening and speaking every day, you are in the right place. Today, I'm bringing you a story of rejection, failure, war, and unstoppable belief. The true story of the boy who built Honda. Stay with me, because this story will change how you see yourself. Forever. Part 1. The Poor Blacksmith's Son. Soichiro Honda was born on a cold November day in 1906. His home? A tiny, quiet village called Komyo in Shizuoka, Japan. There were no cars, no factories, just dusty roads, wooden houses, and hard lives. His father, Soichiro Honda, was a blacksmith. That means he fixed metal tools, bicycle parts, kitchen knives. Anything broken, he tried to fix it. He worked with fire, with hammer, with hands that were always tired. Soichiro's mother, Mika, was a weaver. She made cloth by hand and sold it for just enough money to buy rice. They had no riches, no education, no electricity. But they had dreams. Soichiro was one of 9 children. But 5 of them died very young. Imagine that. 5 small graves. 5 empty places at the dinner table. Why? Because they were too poor to buy medicine, too poor to see a doctor. Soichiro saw death early. He saw his parents cry in silence. He saw hunger, and he never forgot it. He once said, "I was not afraid of failure because I saw worse things as a child." Little Soichiro loved playing with broken tools in his father's workshop. He would collect bicycle parts from the street, bring them home and try to fix them. Sometimes he broke them more. Sometimes he created strange little machines that didn't work. But he didn't stop. One day, everything changed. He was just 8 years old. He heard a strange sound in the distance. Vroom! A machine was coming. People in the village stopped what they were doing. They had never heard anything like it. Then it appeared, a car. Dust flew into the air. The engine roared like a lion. The car wasn't clean. It wasn't new. But to Soichiro, it was magic. He didn't look at the driver. He didn't look at the color. He stared at the wheels, at the way they moved, turned, spun. He chased the car down the road with bare feet. He didn't want to ride it. He wanted to understand it. Later he said, "I don't remember the brand. I don't remember the color. But I remember the sound of the engine. I remember the smell of the oil. That was enough. In that moment, a dream was born. He didn't have a school degree. He didn't have money. But he had fire in his eyes and machines in his heart. And that was just the beginning. Part 2. Rejected by school. Loved by engines. Soichiro Honda was not a good student. He didn't like school. He didn't like sitting still. He didn't like memorizing boring facts. His teachers were often angry with him. "You'll never do anything great," they told him. "You don't listen. You don't focus." Other children laughed at him. They thought he was lazy, strange, a failure. But Soichiro didn't care. Why? Because while his classmates studied textbooks, he studied life. Every day after school, he ran to his father's workshop. He would sit on the floor, hands covered in oil, eyes full of wonder. He loved watching his father repair bicycles. He loved holding tools, smelling grease, feeling the cold metal in his hands. Sometimes he skipped school to help at the workshop. His teachers were furious, but Soichiro was happy. He was learning, just not their way. He said, "My brain didn't understand school books, but my hands understood machines." At home, money was always tight. There was no electricity, no fancy toys, but there were broken things everywhere. Bicycles, pots, clocks. And Soichiro saw each broken thing as a new adventure. He started building his own inventions. He took old bicycle wheels, wood, and wire to make strange contraptions. Most of them didn't work. Some of them fell apart. But every time they broke, he learned something new. One day, he made a wooden go-kart. No motor, no pedals, just wheels and a dream. He rolled it down the village hill and crashed into a tree. His knees were bleeding. His hands were bruised. But he was laughing. That's how he learned. Build, break, repeat. When he was 15 years old, Soichiro saw an advertisement in a newspaper. It was from a car repair shop in Tokyo called Art Shokai. They were looking for an apprentice. Not a mechanic, not a technician, just someone to clean and watch. Soichiro didn't have a train ticket. He didn't have money. He didn't even tell his parents. But he sent a letter, and he got the job. They said, "You will clean the floor. You will not touch the tools. You will just watch." And he said, yes. Why? Because he knew. This was his door. Maybe small, maybe dirty, but it was open. When he arrived in Tokyo, everything was big, loud, and fast. But Soichiro didn't feel scared. He felt alive. He swept floors, emptied trash, fetched tea. But in his mind, he was learning. Watching every move, memorizing every sound of the engines. Nobody saw his dream. But he did, and he was just getting started. Part 3. From Cleaner to Learner in Tokyo. In Tokyo, Soichiro Honda worked at Art Shokai, a famous car repair shop. But he wasn't fixing engines. Not yet. He was sweeping floors. He was cleaning tools. He was carrying tea for the mechanics. Day after day, month after month, he didn't touch a single machine. Some boys would feel useless. Some would quit. But Soichiro stayed. Why? Because he was watching. Always watching. His eyes followed every move the mechanics made. He listened to every sound, every click, every spark. He memorized the smell of burning oil, the rhythm of the engines, the way hands moved fast and steady. When the shop closed at night, he stayed behind. He cleaned more slowly. But in truth, he was studying. He looked at the machines up close, whispered questions to himself, imagined how they worked. In the dark, with nobody watching, he dreamed of building something of his own. Months passed. One day, one mechanic was missing. A small job needed to be done. Soichiro raised his hand. They laughed. You just cleaned the floor." But he said, "Please, let me try." Reluctantly, they allowed him. Slowly, carefully, with steady hands, Soichiro fixed the problem. It worked. From that day, they watched him differently. Slowly, they let him help. Then they let him build. Step by step, tool by tool, he earned their trust. He worked harder than anyone. He slept less. He ate little. He smiled often. Then came a big moment. The shop was building a race car. Fast, dangerous, important. Soichiro begged, "Let me help." At first they refused. It's too risky. But his passion was impossible to ignore. He got the chance. He worked day and night on the engine, on the brakes, on the design. He didn't care about sleep or food. He only cared about speed. The race day arrived. The car roared like a dragon, and it won. Soichiro Honda, the floor cleaner, had helped build a winning machine. It was more than a victory. It was a turning point. But then something unexpected happened. His boss said, "You are ready to open your own branch." Soichiro was shocked. "Me?" "Yes, you have the skill. You have the drive." He returned to his hometown, proud but nervous. He opened a small branch of art shokai with a few tools, a few workers, and a big dream. He wasn't just fixing cars anymore. He was building a future. But the road ahead? It was going to be much harder, because the world was about to change. War was coming. Factories would fall. Dreams would break. But so would limits. And Soichiro Honda? He was ready to face it all. Part 4. War, Earthquake, and Everything Lost. Soichiro Honda's small workshop was growing. He had good workers, strong hands, and a clear vision. He wanted to create something new, something that could move Japan forward. His dream? To make engine parts, not just fix cars. And so, he started working on piston rings. These were small but important parts used in car engines. He believed he could make them better, cheaper, and stronger than anyone else. He spent years studying, experimenting, and building. He failed many times. The rings broke. They didn't fit. They leaked. But he didn't give up. He said, Success is 99% failure. He sent his piston rings to Toyota. They rejected him. The quality wasn't good enough. He felt crushed, but only for a moment. Then he stood up and said, "I will learn." He went back to school to study engineering, even though he didn't have a degree. He watched factories. He listened to experts. He made changes, tried again, failed again, and tried again. Finally, Toyota accepted his piston rings. He got a big contract. He built a factory. He hired workers. He was on the path to greatness. Then came the war. World War II changed everything in Japan. Soichiro's factory was bombed. Parts of it were destroyed. But he didn't stop. He rebuilt. He found scrap metal. He made tools from old war materials. He worked through danger and fear. And then an earthquake struck. His factory collapsed. Machines were ruined. Workers were injured. Years of work gone in seconds. Soichiro stood among the ruins, dust on his face, smoke in the air. His workers looked to him. What now? He could have cried. He could have quit. But he said something simple. We rebuild. He sold the remaining parts of his factory to Toyota and used the money to start over. Japan after the war was a broken country. Cities were destroyed. Roads were cracked. People were poor. There was no fuel, no hope, no future. But Soichiro saw something different. He saw bicycles. Everywhere, people were riding bicycles. They were tired. They were slow. And Soichiro had an idea. What if, he thought, I put a small motor on a bicycle? He didn't wait for permission. He didn't wait for money. He built it. It was noisy, small, and strange, but it worked. People looked at it with wonder. What is that? They asked. He smiled and said, It's a motorbike. That simple invention changed everything. From the ashes of war and the dust of earthquakes, Soichiro Honda had created something new. But he wasn't done yet. Not even close. Part 5. The Bicycle with a Motor. The first motorized bicycle Soichiro Honda built was not perfect. It made strange noises. It shook when it moved. But people in his town couldn't stop looking at it. In post-war Japan, there was no fuel for cars. Most people couldn't afford a bus. Roads were broken, and spirits were low. But this little machine gave people something they had lost. Hope. Soichiro called it the Type A. It was small, cheap, and simple. He didn't have a big factory or lots of workers. He had a few friends, a small space, and a burning idea. The first bikes were built by hand. Soichiro used radio generator motors from the war. He and his team worked day and night, turning old machines into new dreams. They attached the motors to bicycles and tested them on rough roads. Sometimes the chains broke. Sometimes the bikes fell apart. But every time something failed, Soichiro made it better. He was not afraid to improve. He was not afraid to fail. People began to buy the bikes. Slowly at first, then faster. Letters came in from across the country. Can you send one to our town? How much does it cost? How can I get one? Soichiro realized he needed to grow. So he started a new company. He named it after himself, Honda. His first true success came with a new model called the Dream D. It was faster. It was stronger. It was reliable. Japan had never seen anything like it. For people who had lost everything, this motorbike was freedom. It allowed them to travel, to deliver goods, to go to work. It wasn't just a machine. It was a second chance at life. Honda began to grow fast. Soichiro didn't just build machines. He built a company with a soul. He said, I hire people who are better than me. Then I learn from them. He believed in teamwork. He believed in passion. He believed in building with heart. Soon, Honda was not just making motorbikes. They started designing new engines, stronger, smarter, cleaner. Soichiro wanted to make machines that were not only fast, but also kind to the environment. This was years before green technology became popular. He was ahead of his time. People around the world started noticing Honda. His bikes began to sell in other countries. First Asia, then Europe, then America. The boy who once ran barefoot after a car was now building machines that traveled across oceans. But Soichiro didn't stop. He had one more dream: to build cars. And nothing, not poverty, not rejection, not war, was going to stop him now. Part 6. Honda becomes a giant. By the 1960s, the name Honda was no longer just known in Japan. It was starting to echo around the world. But Soichiro Honda was not satisfied. He had built bikes. Now he wanted to build cars. Big, beautiful, fast cars. And he wanted to do it differently. While other companies copied foreign designs, Soichiro said, "We will not follow. We will lead." His engineers were shocked. "But we have no experience building cars," they said. Soichiro smiled. "Then we will learn." The first Honda car was called the T360, a tiny pickup truck. It looked small and simple, but it was powerful and reliable. Soon came the S500, a small sports car with style. People were amazed. A company known for motorbikes had created something new and exciting. Soichiro's dream was coming to life. But entering the car industry wasn't easy. Honda faced huge challenges. Bigger companies tried to push them out. People didn't trust a motorcycle company to build real cars. Even the Japanese government suggested that Honda should merge with another car company to survive. Soichiro refused. "I will not give up my company," he said. "Even if I must leave, I will not change our vision." He continued to invest in research, new technology, and talented people. In 1972, Honda released the Civic, a small car that changed everything. It was cheap, fuel-efficient, and easy to drive. At a time when people wanted affordable and reliable vehicles, the Civic was the perfect answer. It became a hit, not just in Japan, but in the United States and around the world. Then came the Accord, then the Prelude. Each model built more trust. Honda was no longer just a bike company. It was becoming one of the world's top car manufacturers. But Soichiro didn't stop there. He had bigger dreams. He wanted to build a Formula One racing team. People laughed. "That's impossible," they said. "You can't compete with the giants." But he did. Honda built engines for race cars that shocked the world. They were fast, efficient, and powerful. Soon, Honda was winning races, not just in Japan, but on international tracks against the best. Then, in the 1980s and 90s, Honda did something few imagined. They began building robots, jet engines, even airplanes. Yes, Honda, the company started by a poor blacksmith's son, was now making jets that flew through the sky. Soichiro's dream had grown into a global force, but through all the success, he never forgot his roots. He often told young engineers, "Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Be afraid of not trying." The boy who once chased a car now had the world chasing him. Part 7. The Man Behind the Machine. Soichiro Honda was more than an inventor, more than a businessman, more than a dreamer. He was a man who believed in something deeper, growth through failure. He once said, "Success is 99% failure," and he lived by that idea every single day. He didn't wear fancy suits. He didn't care about titles. He wore work clothes, rolled up his sleeves, and walked through his factories. He talked to the workers. He listened. He learned. He laughed with them. To him, every person in the company mattered. Every voice was important. He was not afraid of being wrong. In fact, he welcomed it. When an engineer made a mistake, Soichiro didn't shout. He smiled and said, "Good. Now you've learned something no school can teach." He believed in trying again and again until something worked. And then making it better. Even after Honda became a global company, Soichiro stayed humble. He rode his bicycle to work. He didn't live in a mansion. He believed in living simply and working hard. He said, "I don't care about money. I care about making something great." When asked about his success, he didn't talk about engines or factories. He talked about childhood, about poverty, about the pain of losing 5 siblings, about being rejected by Toyota, about his factory being destroyed by war and earthquake, and still standing up again. "That pain," he said, "was my teacher." Soichiro also believed in education, but not just in schools. He believed in learning by doing. He said, "The best school is life itself." He wanted young people to experiment, to build, to break, to rebuild, to never fear failure, because failure is part of success. When he got older, He stepped down from running the company. But he didn't disappear. He visited plants. He mentored engineers. He gave speeches. He reminded everyone why Honda existed. Not to make money, but to make things that improve life. He received awards, honors, and praise from around the world. But he always stayed true to his roots. The poor boy who chased a car had become one of the greatest minds in engineering history. Yet he never saw himself as special. He said, "I'm just someone who didn't give up." In 1991, Soichiro Honda passed away. But his spirit didn't. It lives in every engine, in every Honda car, motorbike, airplane, and robot. It lives in every dreamer who fails and still keeps going. Because in the end, Soichiro didn't just build machines, he built belief. Conclusion and reflection. Soichiro Honda's story is not just about engines, cars, or bikes. It's about heart. It's about falling and rising. Again and again. He was poor. He failed many times. He lost everything, twice, but he never stopped. He kept building, kept learning, kept believing, and because of that, the whole world moves with his name. Today, Honda is one of the biggest companies on earth. But it all started with one barefoot boy chasing a car down a dusty village road. He didn't have money, he didn't have support, but he had something more powerful than all of that. He had a dream. And you, my dear learner, my amazing friend, you also have a dream. Maybe you're learning English. Maybe life feels hard. Maybe people doubt you. But Soichiro Honda's story shows us this. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep going. So let me ask you, what will you build? What dream will you chase? Tell us in the comments. Practice your English. Share your thoughts. And remember, every time you listen to a story like this, you're not just learning English, you're building your future. This is Learn English with Stories 365. Keep dreaming, keep learning, and never give up.